A man stopped at a flower shop to order some flowers to be wired to his mother who lived 200 miles away. As he got out of his car, he noticed a young girl sitting next to the shop, crying. He asked her what was wrong and she replied, "I wanted to buy a red rose for my mother, but I only have 75 cents and a rose costs $2. The man smiled and said, "Come with me, I'll buy you a rose." He bought the little girl her rose and ordered his own mother's flowers. As they were leaving, he offered the girl a ride home. She said, "Yes, please, you can take me to my mother." She directed him to a cemetery, where she placed the rose on a freshly dug grave. The man, shocked, returned to the flower shop, canceled the wire order, picked up a bouquet and drove the 200 miles to his mother's house. Life is too short. Spend as much time as you can with people who love you. There was a boy called Luis, who had a very short temper. One day his father gave him a bag of nails and said, "Why don't you hammer a nail every time you get angry?" Luis agreed and took the bag of nails. The first day, he had driven 41 nails into a fence. Over the next few weeks, as he learned to control his anger, the number of nails hammered daily gradually dwindled down. He discovered it was easier to hold his temper than to drive those nails into the fence. The father said, "Now that you have learned to control your temper, why don't you start to pull out a nail for each day you successfully control your temper?" Luis agreed. A few days later, all the nails were pulled out. The father took Luis to the fence and told him that he did a good job. But the fence is full of holes. It will never be the same. When you say things in anger, they leave a scar. It won't matter how many times you apologize. The wound is still there.
A boy called Alex went to see the priest because he felt desperate and misunderstood. His parents no longer believed him and blamed him for everything that had gone wrong, although this time he was innocent. As Alex explained his situation to the priest, his mind went back to what had happened. Alex remembered hiding his school grades, only for his mother to find them in the rubbish. He remembered begging his parents to let him go to a friend's house to study for an important project, despite being grounded, only to be caught at the skate park instead. He remembered the sadness in his parents' eyes when they saw him there, and the times he had stolen money from their pockets. The flashbacks ended and Alex pleaded to the priest, "Yes, I lied to them before, but what they're accusing me of now isn't true. If I'm telling the truth, why don't they believe me?" The priest looked at Alex and replied, "Trust is like a delicate flower. Every lie damages it until it's completely destroyed. When that happens, you have to be willing to invest time and love to make it bloom again. It doesn't happen overnight." Alex understood then that it was up to him to rebuild trust with his parents. He realized that it would take time, love and understanding to help that delicate flower of trust grow again.
One day, an ex-major was walking through a park when he suddenly saw a little cat stuck on a big tree. The poor animal was struggling to get out, so he climbed up the tree and tried to reach for the little cat, but the ex-major got his hand scratched. The cat seemed to fear him. He then pulled his hand, screaming with pain, but he did not stop. He tried to reach for the cat again and again. Another man was watching the scene and screamed with surprise, "For God's sake, stop trying to help this cat. He's going to get himself out of there." The ex-major did not care about him. He just continued trying to save that animal until he finally succeeded. And then he walked to that man and said, "Sir, it is the cat's instincts that makes him scratch and hurt me, trying to defend himself, but it is my job to share my love and protect. Treat everyone around you with your ethics, not with theirs. Treat the people the way you want to be treated by them." Phil and Jason are playing in the garden when Phil's mom suddenly calls, "Phil, darling, come in and eat." Phil completely ignores her and continues to play. Then Jason asks him, "Don't you want to go in? Your mom called you." Phil replies, "I don't want to go in. She always has to be annoying." So they both carry on playing. After a few minutes, Jason asks again, "Don't you want to eat? Your mom's waiting." Phil shakes his head and says, "Man, my mom's annoying. Let's just keep playing." Then Jason says, "Can I eat with you? I'm hungry too." Phil rolls his eyes and says, "Okay, then let's go inside to my mom then." As they sit at the table, Jason says, "Thanks, Mrs. Tompkins, for letting me eat with you. Everything looks great." Out of nowhere, Phil suddenly shouts, "The food doesn't taste good and it's cold. You can't cook." Later that evening, as Jason is saying goodbye to Phil, he says, "Tomorrow I'm going to visit my mom. Do you want to come along?" Phil agrees. The next day, Jason takes Phil to his mom and says, "I wish my mom would call me for dinner or hug me in the evening and say goodnight. Be glad you have a mom. Enjoy it because you never know how long the people you love will be around."